So the cover-up had a few layers to it. One, tell people the only thing that's at risk is the TARP money. Distract them with $700 billion, they'll ignore the $23 trillion. It worked. The media followed the 700. Everybody talked, oh, they paid back the 700.
It's like you say, well, I paid off my Capital One credit card, but what you didn't say is you took a cash advance and discovered to do it.
Ah, yes, some familiar faces. Of course, Carl Denninger and your friendly neighborhood afternoon host on MSNBC there. Just two of the many voices featured in the new social documentary, Bailout, the movie. It is a film that exposes the fraud and cover-up of what is still to this day the ongoing largest heist in American history using our central bank. It seeks to explore the impact on the everyday lives of Americans to this day. The premise of the film is simple. A lawyer stops paying his mortgage and enlists 5 buddies for a road trip to Las Vegas to do precisely what Wall Street banks did. Gamble away all their money, except for, at least with the lawyer, he was using his own money. During the trip, the gang sees firsthand the price the rest of the country had to pay in real life unemployment, real-life foreclosure, and most importantly, the corruption of a social covenant in this country that we had all agreed we would aspire to live in a country that had one set of rules. Joining us now is the film's director, Sean Fahey, along with executive producer John Titus, who is the main subject of the movie. Bailout, the movie, will be screened tonight in New York City at the Soho House, all of it leading up to a big premiere in Chicago a little bit later on this month. So congratulations. I remember the very conversation. I'm happy to see that my particular commentary didn't end up on the cutting room floor. Most broadly, if we look at the movement in this country to expand awareness of the corrupt nature and the 2 sets of rules and all just how damaging the gross mismanagement of our large financial system is by the list of things, what do you hope is the next layer of awareness and the ongoing sort of crusade to get enough awareness that we can do something about it?
Well, it's really more to explain that there's a bit more at work here than mismanagement. It is more in the nature of fraud that has been perpetrated by Wall Street on Main Street. There's a lot of explanations of the financial crisis out there that are couched in all sorts of jargon, like mispriced risk and excess leverage. That's not the problem. The crisis was caused by fraud. And what we do is connect the dots between the foul on Wall Street and the harm on Main Street. And that's our goal, is to make people aware of that fact.
And the film obviously will do a vastly superior job. It's why people make movies and make the investment and do what you guys have done to be really effective in communicating this. But in brief, at the table here, connect the dots. Well, why is it fraud and not something else? You obviously have a receptive audience with me because I agree.
Sure. I mean, you learned a lot from you in your interview. Right. I mean, it was really interviewing some really sage minds that really know the explicit frauds that we're dealing with in the film.
Yeah.
And that kind of
which is basically what the Wall Street realized, that they could basically win the confidence of the pension system to effectively serve as the collateral for the gambling spree. I mean, that's the effect of what happened.
Well, it seems to me like you're fed 2 things. You're fed either fear in the form of terrorism or financial terrorism, but then you're also fed hope. And either of these are kind of like a delusion game. One thing that we talk about in the film is like student loans, for example. We're calling them the new subprimes. And it's very true. I mean,
yeah, I agree with that.
Students are turning into serfs in our country right now. That's a reality. The debt burden that they receive, they can't escape.
The thing that has struck me the most is when you look beyond the obvious, the individual components. There's something in this country where our government and our banks get it in their head that something's got to happen. Everybody's got to have a house, everybody's got to have an education, whatever it is. And some through sinister exploitation of that morally righteous desire, others through reckless abandon inside of the morally righteous desire, collaborate to say, why don't we give everybody a bunch of money we don't have so we can all either get rich or feel better about ourselves? Is that an unfair cultural indictment on my part?
No, that's totally fair. That's precisely what happened after the tech bubble burst in the early 2000s. Was, well, what bubble do we have left? It turned out to be a credit bubble. Well, what credit are you going to use? And the answer was mortgages.
Right.
So
and student lending is the same exact thing.
Exactly the same.
Everybody needs an education, give them money.
Loans are being made to people, and the lenders know that these loans will not be repaid.
And the insult is, I mean, they feed you a dream that's just delusional. You know, that
I call it
Horatio
hopium.
algorithm.
Well, it's being a hopium dealer.
Sure, there you go, hopium.
And the new drug of choice in this country is hopium. And the thing that really struck me was that you talk to people, the best response to despair is not hope. The best response to despair is not even rage and anger. The best response to despair is action.
Amen.
And ultimately, I presume what everybody involved in this is trying to do is to raise enough awareness to cultivate more action. The first action is to raise awareness. The second action is to take action once you have the awareness. Take a look at this, another clip of this movie.
We was foreclosed upon and kicked out of our house. Came out in the streets to take care of my young girlfriend, and she has a mental illness, and I'm here to watch after, till we get on our feet. And I walk every day to the hospital to go see her. It's 10 miles there and back. Instead of staying in shelters or out on the streets, we found this community to live in.
It's only when I leave 30 million jobs stealing, when we're out in the country, that I fully appreciate, A, how much everybody understands what's going on, and B, how anxious and ready they are to find each other and do something about it. Do you get the sense that anybody in the policy-making apparatus or the traditional media apparatus appreciates what you experienced over the course of the past, or the making of this movie, doing this?
No, absolutely not. If you look back to the SNL crisis, Edwin Gray, in response to a videotape he saw of the destruction, went from being anti-regulation to pro-regulation and put a lot of people in jail. Apparently there's no one around like that in either the previous, even this administration or the previous one, to react like that and step up.
Which is all the more reason why the crusade must be to raise awareness high enough. And the point is, when awareness is high enough, people can change their minds and make different decisions, which they did in the SNL crisis. But there's almost too much at stake on this one. I actually think that to deal with this is so intimidating for the people that are involved that they don't want to do it.
Well, you said something in our interview for the film when you talked about the idea that the reality could have been in 2008 that these banks could have been wound down. Literally.
They could have done a global debt restructuring Marshall Plan. I mean, you could have come in and said, listen, this is the problem. You could do the same, everything that you did. In other words, you still do the bailout, still spin the wheels, you got the cars in the tree, but you don't have to, after you inflate the airbags, let the same people drive the car the same way they used to drive it.
And then pay themselves record bonuses, too. The slap in the face, the huge slap in the face.
It's just
that's the problem. Economists, the very economists who disgrace themselves are still calling the shots.
Yeah, they have the same CEOs, but more than the people, same business model, funded by us. The swaps market is bigger today than it was in 2008.
Correct.
We're going to get each other all worked up. It is a delightful caper, An American Tale. I invite you to check it out. There it is, Bailout, a story of America in a way that may be upsetting, but at the same time is the first step to caring for ourselves. So congrats to you guys for the movie Bailout.